Hey guys, welcome to the newest episode of The Real Deal, where I walk through real deals and show you how we are buying properties with no credit, no credentials, and none of our own cash. In this episode, this is a property that we own on seller finance. We're going to tell you how we bought the deal, where it came from, how we structured the deal, how we paid for it, and ultimately what our exit strategy is. Let's get into it. All right, so here we are. The property address. As always, you know I'm going to be telling you guys only about real deals. This property is on 6761 West Sonnet Drive. This is a property that is valued near $500,000. And we are buying it for just under that. We're in contract right now. Let's pull up the contract. We're in contract for under that price, but here's the thing that's crazy cool. Okay, the thing that is crazy cool is that we're not buying this property based on the value or the purchase price of the home. Now, you might have some guys like the Meet Kevins, the Graham Steffens of the world that are trying to buy properties at 30, 40% under ARV, and I get that. We want those properties too. But what I want more than anything else is I want to be able to acquire properties without having to go and utilize credentials such as a 2-year job history, which in my line of work, a 1099 or owning multiple businesses is very hard and challenging to get traditional financing. The other thing I want to stay away from is high interest rates. So when you're going out and buying investment properties, you're not getting low interest rates. I know interest rates are crazy low right now, but I own this property right here for a 2% interest rate. Where else can I get that? The other thing is, I bought this property based on its ability to cash flow, because think about the guys in 2006, 2007 that bought these properties at the height of the market. And they turned around and let them go in 2009, 2010, etc., just to find out that 10 years later, those properties have all come back and now surpassed those previous high marks of 2008 before the market crashed. If those gentlemen or ladies would simply have cash flowed through, kept their tenants in place, etc., and been able to weather that storm, their mortgages would have had 10 years of payments packed down on those houses. So now looking back, a lot of my friends who lost everything in the 2008 crash, did the equity in those properties really matter to them? No. What if you had a 20, 30, or a 40% amount of equity in your home? It didn't mean anything back then. Some of these houses lost 60, 70, and 80% of their value in a matter of 6 months or less. So we never buy properties based on equity. Equity is cherry on top, but we're never going and saying, oh, that's a bad deal. What I look at instead is the yield. What is the yield? The yield is how much money I put in out of pocket, and ultimately what is my net return every single year for that money. So let's say that I put $10,000 into a property, and at the end of the year, I net a return after all expenses, everything, even rainy day fund and all those types of things. I end up netting $1,000 at the end of the year. Well, that's a 10% return, which would be a 10% yield. That's a great return for most people. For us, because we're using private money and we're also using sellers who are giving us their mortgages in subject to, or sellers that are giving us a note or financing us with their own money. And then I'm also bringing in private money for the closing costs, renovation, in this property specifically, furniture for the Airbnb that we'll be running here. I have a $0 investment, which means my yield is actually infinite. And so that's somewhat, kind of misguided in the sense that, yes, there's an investment here. I know it's not my money, but there's time, there's energy. And also I could use that private money to be put into any other deal. So I do have to really look at every single house, even though my personal yield is infinite. It doesn't mean the money I raise or the private money I bring to the table is infinite. So we're going to take a look at this deal. We're going to break it down. We're going to give you guys an understanding of where it came from, how we funded it, and what our exit strategy is. Boom. All right, so how did I find this house? It's really simple. A lot of people don't realize how simple this business can really be. I teach my students at sub2.com this strategy of going to wholesalers who are having a hard time with sellers who simply want too much money. Telling those wholesalers, hey, I understand creative finance. If you ever have a lead, a seller, or anything that's going on that is way too tight and you can't make sense of it, I may be able to help you. So this property actually was brought to me by Katie Fisher and Jack Huber, who are real estate investors and partners together. They ran into a seller named June. Now, I've done multiple deals with Katie and Jack. We've talked about them on this channel before. They bring a lot of deals to the table for us because we enjoy doing business together. I buy their seller finance and subject to deals on houses that have little to no equity. So this seller, June, who is basically having a lot of health issues, her major issue is she says, look, I would normally leave all of these homes that I own free and clear. I would leave them to my son, but I don't think that that's the route to go for me. What I'd rather do is sell all of these houses on seller finance so that my son, instead of having to manage properties when I pass, my son has cash flow coming in because now he's the bank. So that's what they did here. They sold this property to us where they have a house paid off free and clear, and they are asking for the Zillow price. That's right, I paid full retail asking price on this property based on what Zillow told the seller. I raised my hand and I said, hey, I would be willing to buy this property if you would be willing to give me terms. The seller says, absolutely. So the seller who's looking at the monthly payment coming to them will not have to manage the property, will not have to maintain the property, will not have to touch base with renters on where my payments are. They get a payment from me, and the seller now becomes the bank. So the Bank of June will receive a monthly payment from me. The payment on this $500,000 home is $1,700 with interest and principal, and then an additional $300 with property taxes and insurance. So my payments on this $500,000 property are only $2,000 a month. So how are we doing this deal? What we're doing is we're giving June $10,000 down payment. We're paying Katie and Jack a $5,000 assignment fee, so that's $15,000 right there. We're then putting in $20,000 into this property. Wow, now we're at $35,000 plus closing costs. We're roughly around $40,000. We haven't even furnished this property yet. That's another $20,000. Wow, here we go. Now, while I'm furnishing and getting the renovation done before I put it on the market for an Airbnb, I now have multiple payments, utilities, and expenses along the way. So we're looking probably somewhere around the tune of about $70,000 to get this property close of escrow, the seller their cash, the wholesaler their assignment fee, my furniture, my setup, my payments along the way before we start cash flowing on this property. Now I teach people, we're doing this with $0 out of our pocket. I already told you how we're doing with zero credit. The seller is becoming the bank. So I don't have to apply for a loan. I don't have to do any credentials. I don't have to have job history, anything like that. Where am I getting the money? Well, we are lucky. We have great relationships with private lenders who give us a loan in second position for that $70,000. That $70,000 we pay roughly 8% interest on, and now our payment is another $500 to $600 a month. So with my private lender and my payment for property taxes, insurance, HOA, all those types of things, I'm at roughly $2,700. The beautiful thing is this property brings in $8,000 in income every single month for this neighborhood that does Airbnb. So if we average $8,000 a month on this property by putting it on an Airbnb, I have a gentleman named Noah Hoffman that manages my Airbnbs. He deals with the tenants, he deals with the utilities, he deals with the HOA, he deals with repairs and maintenance and all those things, and I'm hands off. The beautiful thing is, Noah charges me 10% of my income. So if I receive $8,000 in a month from Airbnb, Noah takes $800 for his management fee, which leaves $7,200 for me. Now, you take the $7,200 that's left over after Noah, you take the utilities, expenses, and all the other things, and you roughly net everything. And this is also putting some money away for a rainy day fund. We're gonna net about $3,000 per month on this one property. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing how I can buy a property from a wholesaler. They brought the deal to me, so I didn't even have to negotiate with the seller. I didn't have to apply for a loan. I didn't have to show anybody my bank statements or tax returns or anything like that. I simply went to a private lender and said, hey, I've got a property that's a good return for us. Would you like to make some money along the way and partner with us on this house? Now, I own the house. I control everything. I have the deed in my name, not the lender's name, and I can do whatever I want with this property. The lender makes money, the seller makes money, the wholesaler who couldn't do anything with this makes money, and ultimately I build passive income and generational wealth by letting my Airbnb pay off all my lenders over time and also bring me a net of $3,000 per month. Guys, this is how wealth is built. Now, if I was going to buy this with the BRRRR strategy, and you'll hear me talk slightly negatively about the BRRRR strategy, not that it doesn't work, it's just that it takes a lot longer. I would have to go and apply for a loan, buy this property at a significant discount, and ultimately put a lot of my own personal cash into it while I'm renovating and then renting. I have to rent this now for 6 months before I refinance it and get my money out. That would have taken way too much time. And for us, sometimes just getting an opportunity from a seller that says, we'll sell the house to you right now if you're willing to pay this price. So let me address the paying full price issue. Most people will go, oh my gosh, you're paying full price. When has that ever been an issue for people who know how to cash flow? 10 years in the future, 15 years in the future, 25 years in the future, this house will go down to zero and I will let my tenants and I will let my short-term rental pay this property off for me. So whether I'm paying full retail or 10% or 20% below retail, does it really matter? The year is 2021. We're going to have a crash, whether it's this year, next year, or very soon in the future. This property or any other property I'm currently buying is going to lose a significant amount of equity. So at that point, let's say that I bought a property today for $100,000. And that property, or let's say this. Let's say I buy a property for $80,000 that's worth $100,000. That means I have 20% equity. That's amazing. What happens if an 2008 crash happens, where now the property isn't worth $100,000, it's now worth $40,000 or $30,000, and I own it for $80,000? Oh my gosh, the world is ending. No, it's not. You never lose in real estate, especially with cash flowing assets. Now, if I bought a piece of dirt that wasn't cash flowing, then yes. But if I have an asset such as a rental, I have an asset such as an Airbnb, a group home, a corporate rental, or something along those lines, the market can go up and down, left and right. I do not care. Because over the last 50 years in our market, rental rates continued to rise. So not only will I cash flow today, but I will cash flow more in 2 years than I did today. And I will cash flow significantly more in 10 years than I did today. That is the power of real estate. So while I'm buying rentals and I'm buying Airbnbs and I'm buying all these things with zero credit and zero cash out of my pocket, you have people trying to do 1 or 2 BRRRR strategy deals a year because of how slow it goes. So think about that. Think about the power of creative finance. Now, Katie, knowing Katie, where did she find the house? Katie found the house by utilizing batch leads, texting sellers and calling sellers. So batchleads.io/pace will get you 500 free text messages so that you can reach out to sellers and you can reach out to people and try and find deals. Katie is incredibly good at follow-up. She's incredibly good at this game. So definitely she ran into a house that wasn't a good fit for her and she brought it to me. So if you guys are looking to do deals with us, reach out to 480-819-9295. I have a team that actually handles these types of opportunities for me while I'm traveling the country with Jamil, my counterpart, my competition that I collaborate with. So this was a really short episode of The Real Deal because I really wanted to be here. I'm doing some other things here. I'm meeting my contractors here, but I wanted to break down the opportunity and the possibilities of this business. Guys, go down below. There's links, there's other things that will help you along the way. and make a comment. Let me know what you'd like to learn in the future about maybe how to negotiate. What does the paperwork look like? All of those types of things, and I'd be happy to help you. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of The Real Deal. I'll see you next week on the next one.